Hello everyone, I'm Khushbu Nathalia and you watching Conceptual Legal. Today we are here for a live session on LLM from abroad, ocean of opportunities and limitation. We have a very special guest for this particular session, Miss Lennora Crilov. Sh- She is the manager of international programs and admission at Narxoz University, Kazakhstan, having established partnership with universities and educational institutes around the world. She works together, she works towards making quality higher education accessible and affordable, especially for students hailing from developing countries. Ma'am also holds the position of Senior Lecturer of International Law at the university. She received a BA Honours LLB degree from India, Amity University, Noida, and went on to do her LLM in Public Interest Laws from Pennsylvania State University, USA, on a top merit-based scholarship. Ma'am was a student lawyer with the Center for Immigrants' Rights Clinic, USA, a nationally recognized legal clinic focused on immigration, a program officer for Maitri India, an organization that works with women and children from the impoverished communities in New Delhi, a research assistant on ADR for the Pennsylvania State University, and an intern at Oxfam, India. Her research interest lies in comparative migrants' integration policies of countries and their conformity to international human rights standards. Ma'am, we are very delighted to have you here with us. And please share your experience with the audience.
Thank you so much, Kushbu, for having me here. Thank you so much, Conceptual Legal. It is such a privilege to be here, and even more of a privilege to be able to talk to Indian graduates or Indian students who are looking to join into an LLM program or maybe in a PhD program abroad. So, a little bit about my experience, considering that you've already given a brief background of where I've come from and now what I do. So, I started out in Amity, India, in Amity Law School, Noida. And as a law student in my third year, I was always into public interest laws. I was always into women and children development. And I had the opportunity to meet a couple of slum children outside Amity Law School. And since then, I started teaching them after school. I slowly from that, I moved to working with their mothers and then the different women within their slum areas. And then it turned into a complete community outreach program. And because of that, I realized that that's what I wanted to do in life. But after spending 2 years with the impoverished communities of India, I realized that however much a person wants to help, if you do not have government backing and if you do not have a lot of policy backing, system backing, you cannot really stop that vicious circle of poverty. So that was one of the reasons that made me want to do an LLM and why I chose Penn State. So that was a very interesting story. I really, the dean of the law school, of the assistant dean of the law school of Penn State was visiting India, and we were talking before about a lot of things, and he was very interested in the work that I was doing. So he joined me while I was meeting the families, etc., of the communities that I was working with, and he offered me a very good scholarship. And of course, and I got to know Penn State did a lot of work for the immigrant communities, which is most of what our slum communities are. So that made my decision to go to Penn State, and it was a decision I will never regret. One of the best decisions of my life, and the rest is all history because yeah, I am where I am today because of that amazing education that I got. Kushbu, what else did you want me to talk about? More into my professional experience while at Penn State, or do you want me to wait for the questions for me to talk about it? Because I'd rather have the questions right now so that
Right.
so I don't it doesn't have to be like a lecture. We can just,
Yeah, right. We can have, since it's a live session, so let's have questions and answers and let's continue with that. So, ma'am, let's start with the very first question which students have in their mind when they think of doing LLM from abroad, and that deals with the finance related to it. The students really want to know about the scholarship programs and how exactly can they apply. What is the procedure for the admission in foreign universities?
Okay, so I'm going to divide this question into scholarships, and I'm also going to divide it into the finance arrangements. So first, I'm going to deal with the finance arrangements. So normally when people hear LLM abroad, they think really, really expensive. But that is very, very subjective, because it depends where you want to go. If you want to go to the States, yes, tuition per year is about 50,000 US dollars. But if you want to go to Europe, you have schools, really good schools, that have tuition for 1 year as 2,000 euros. And sometimes even in France, you have tuition for 1 year as 200 euros. So 2,200. You don't even need to go to the 50,000. So if what you're looking for is a quality education abroad, you have a lot of options. You don't need to feel limited by your financial situation. Okay, so make sure you look. There are also a lot of new kind of education programs called dual degree programs, which are also very beneficial for international lawyers, because they have when they go abroad. And the reason I bring this up is because mostly dual degree programs are done in developing countries with a partner university in a developed country, like somewhere in Europe or the States or Canada, etc. And you pay lesser tuition fees for that, but you get that same degree. You graduate with that same degree as someone else would in that country. So there are a lot of options. You just need to do your research to find out what you want to do. Money is really not should not hinder you and your dreams to get a graduate education abroad. Okay. Now moving on to the scholarship part of it. Uh, Most universities. Okay, let me go on to two things. The first thing you do when you apply for an LLM program is you'd have to pay the application fee. Now that application fee ranges from $50 to $100 to $150, depending on which university you want to go to. Some of them are free, but we're talking about the ones that cost. So what most people forget is that they just take it as, oh, I have to pay this amount. But one thing students forget to do is they forget to write into the university and ask them, is there a application fee waiver? And it's because of that. So when I was looking at where I wanted to do my master's in, I looked at quite a lot of schools. And before I would actually send in my application, I would write into them and I'd be like, excuse me, uh, could you let me know any of your application fee waiver options? Is that a possibility? What criteria do you need to fit, etc., etc. So I think the point that I'm trying to get across is always ask questions. Every time someone gives you an amount or you see an amount on a website, don't take it as it is a final word. No, you ask questions, you reach out to the admissions department. There's a lot that you can do. The second thing about scholarships, most universities have scholarships, and most of them, now you have two kinds of scholarships. You have merit-based scholarships and need-based scholarships. Now in universities like Harvard, you don't have merit-based scholarships because they consider everyone is a meritorious student, right? That's why you're in Harvard. So they give you these scholarships based on need. So I will get into the application process later, but during the application process, students have a chance to write on your statement of purpose, your background, what makes you choose this specialization of masters that you're going into, etc. And it's in your statement of purpose that you write your life's purpose and blend in your situation and your circumstances. So in terms of the need-based scholarships, you need to show proof that you do need the money, because most top universities do not have, like I mentioned, merit-based scholarships. They have need-based scholarships. So you'll need to see if you'll fit into that. So if you don't have the funds, this is where you write your background, your story, and sell yourself as to why you deserve that limited spot in one of their need-based scholarships. Now, the second kind of scholarships that you get are the merit-based scholarships. As the word says it's like if you topped in your school, if you had great professional experience, great internships, etc. So if all you've been doing during your law school is participating in moot courts, topping your class, not even topping your class, as you didn't even need to top your class. I never Okay, let's not get into me, but yeah, so you could not even be the top 10% of your class. You if all you did was intern sincerely and not just have fake certificates of internship, but actually intern because they have interviews. So if you do a lot of internships, if you do a lot of moot courts, if you do a lot of extracurricular activities, that stands out, and that leads to you getting your merit based scholarship. And of course, most universities have a cutoff rate. So they'll have a 3-point GPA average that you need to get into, which differs for each country. So for India, normally when people say 3.0 GPA, they expect a 61% and above. So, but you'll need to check that. It differs university wise and country wise. So 60% is not that high of a standard because they consider Indian education really tough and strong. So a lot of people have opportunities to get in for the merit based scholarships. Okay. Any other questions? Please, Kushbu, if you feel that I left anything out, feel free to stop me and ask me.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so you're talking about the extracurricular activities, right? Students really don't know the importance of it. So just because you're talking about it, so why don't you just throw some light on the same? I know it's a bit off the track, but still.
No, everything is valid, especially when you're applying for a master's or any graduate program abroad. Every single thing that you do is valid. So we come from a country of 1.3 billion people, right? And imagine everyone is applying to go into a master's program. Not everyone, but a large population of us, right? What makes you stand out? There are not million, there are thousands of Indian law schools all over. There are thousands of law schools all over India. What makes you stand out? And it is your extracurricular activities and your internships that make you stand out. The things that your self initiatives that make you stand out. And when I say extracurricular activities, it doesn't really help you only stand out as from the purely academic students, but it also helps you stand out in terms of different professional characteristics like leadership, um, like discipline, a lot of things. So extracurricular activities so it's my job to to recruit students for our programs in the university that I'm working in. And we have dual degree partnerships with the UK, with the United States, with Lithuania, with a lot of countries. And when I read through people's resumes, yes, it's always great to see someone who's intelligent and worked hard to get there, 99%, etc. But what stands out to me, especially when I have my interview call with them, is what they've actually done during their 5 years at law school or 3 years at law school. So if all you did was sit at home and be a bookworm, which is great, and that's not a derogatory comment, it's just your choice. I would also say try to put in more effort into getting out of your comfort zone, because studying abroad is getting out of your comfort zone.
Yes,
Yeah.
so I would like to tell the students that it is very important that you start working from today itself, not only particularly if you want to go for abroad, but just to improve yourself, just to enhance your skills and boost that confidence amongst you. Everything, whatever you do, it counts up to something, it adds up to something. So, yes, studying law is important, but practicing and participating is equally important for you. Yes, moving ahead, ma'am, the students have a lot of queries when it comes to selecting the universities or particularly the countries in which they should apply. Not only the universities and the courses, because the names of the courses or the courses being offered by foreign universities are very different what we see in India, and particularly when the laws of the two countries are different, so it creates a lot of confusion in the mind of the student as to which course and which college should they go for. So how can you suggest that?
Thank you, Kushbu. So every time I talk to any of my students who come to me, or any of any students who are interested to join in for any of these LLM programs or PhD programs, the first question I ask them is, why do you want to do an LLM? So, and I get different answers for that. They say, I just want to travel abroad. And this is especially for Indians, a lot of Indians just love to travel abroad. They may not even use that degree and come back, right? When they come back to work. So this is the only chance you get to travel abroad before settling down. So one is that. And it's a very honest answer. It's not a professional answer, but it's an honest answer. The second reason people want to go abroad is because they feel it will give them a step up, in terms of what they do. So Kushbu, I don't want to stray away from the question. What part exact? Because I don't want to go overboard with the 1 hour thing. So you just give me the short question, and I'll try to give you a short answer.
Okay, how do we choose the universities and the
Okay.
courses?
So after you find out why do you want to do an LLM, you need to ask yourself. You're going to find a reason. So I wanted to do an LLM. So I give you my example. I wanted to do an LLM because I wanted to develop myself in a field where I could help publish policy or assist in policy development, etc. So my area that I wanted to work in was public interest laws. Now, most universities offer specializations, but most universities don't. So you need to, if you figured out what specialization you want, you need to focus on that. And you need to also see your financial situations. There are different things there are different questions you need to ask yourself. First, why do you want to do an LLM? Second, what is your financial situation? How are you going to be able to pay for it? And the third one is how much are you ready to put yourself in a different environment? Because I will give you a background based on each one of those points. The first one is when you find out which area you want to specialize in. The second thing you need to find out is if you have the money, the United States is always a good option because it has a different way of education compared to how we study in India. So in India, our system is more rote learning, where you learn everything by heart and then just write it on your paper. Whereas in the States, it's, at least from the university that I graduated from, it's extremely different. In the States, you don't come to class and the teacher lectures you. In the States, you have to study 100 pages, read 100 pages before you come to class. And then if you're not, and the teachers have these cards and they pull out your name and they're like, Lenora, you tell me about this case that you were supposed to have read before coming into class. So it's very different. You have to be proactive. This is not like a lecture class. This is more like a using your mind and actually talking about contemporary issues, etc. So you need to figure out what exactly is that you want. So if you can afford America, I would definitely, considering I've got my education from there, I would definitely suggest you all to do that. But if scholarships opportunities are not available and you want a really good education too, Europe has amazing opportunities, and their fees are extremely minuscule compared to the States. Like I mentioned before, you can get it right from 200 euros to 2,000 euros to 5,000 euros. It's very rarely that you get universities that are higher than that. And again, that's not UK. I'm talking about the rest of Europe. UK gets a little expensive. You're looking at about 15,000. And the third part is about how much are you ready to put yourself in a different country and a different environment. So I think as Indians, we grew up with a lot of American television, whether it was your Disney Channel or Nickelodeon, etc. So it kind of introduced you to their culture a little bit, right? So it was easy to blend. Whereas if you go to, say, different countries where people may not speak the language, English may not be the first language, like if you chose France, if you chose Norway, because a lot of people go to University of Oslo for the LLM, they have a great LLM program there. If you choose Lithuania, there are you need to choose a place that you feel you would be able to stand out. You don't choose a place just because you can afford it and because they have your subjects. You choose a place because you'd be able to enjoy that time abroad and that experience that you're going. So whenever anyone asks you, every time you feel like you need to ask yourself, how do I choose my college, which colleges would I recommend, etc., you need to ask yourself these three questions, right? What field do you want to do? What is your financial situation? And three, will you be able to blend into that environment? Because that is very important. A lot of Indian students that I've met get extremely depressed because there's no one that speaks their language. You will not have Indian food if you're in a small community, and trust me, how long can you survive with bland food, right? You will not get spices, and I'm being extremely honest, because you'll need to think about this third point the most, because it gets very difficult to be in a community where you do not feel like you're a part of it, right? So
Right.
yeah.
Since we're talking about language, right? You have done pretty good courses in foreign languages too. You well versed with good number of languages, right?
Wouldn't say well versed, but yes, enough to survive. A little bit
Yes,
of
enough
Russian,
to
a little
survive.
bit of
So, how important are these foreign languages courses? Like, do you recommend students for these courses?
Okay, I so when we were in law school, we always took for granted our French or German or Chinese, whatever foreign language we took. We were like, okay, free credits, good marks, etc., etc.
Yes, I totally agree.
Planning to go abroad, the more languages you know, the better. Okay, if I could, I was always good at foreign languages and surprisingly not that good at Hindi. I don't know why, but yes, but foreign languages really, really make a difference when you step out abroad, because when you're abroad, you're going to find a lot of, especially when you're in a educational environment, you're going to find a lot of people from various cultures and various countries, and so sometimes it's easier to communicate when you speak at least basics of that language. So a lot of my work takes me to Russia, takes me to France, takes me all over Europe. And though I have my Indian accent when I speak the language, they can still understand what I say. So that little French that you learn, hold on to it, take it seriously. It really does help. Trust me, it really does help. So yes, take your foreign languages more serious. And I would also encourage you to try, especially first year students, because you have 3 or 5 years ahead of you. And that would be a great time to improve your foreign language skills. Because if you want to work abroad or even work in India, having an extra language on your resume as fluent, or maybe a B2 level, which is like an intermediary level, really benefits you and it makes you stand out. A lot of
Right.
my colleagues who speak Arabic, Russian, etc., they are like higher up there than I could ever be, because these languages really, really help. Okay.
Right. So if you want to have a good resume, if you want it to be highlighted somewhere, yes, apart from the first thing which ma'am pointed out, that's your extra co-curricular activities. You should definitely try and learn few languages, if not many, so that it not only help you to learn one, but it also helps you to have better opportunities, better job opportunities. Even if you don't wish to go abroad, even from India, you can gain those aspects and have a better footing as compared to other people who are fluent in just Hindi, English, or one or two languages, right?
Definitely.
Yes, yes. So moving ahead, ma'am, the next question, which is often asked by the students, is that what exactly is the benefit of doing LLM from abroad? If we want to continue to work in India itself, like, is it only beneficial if we wish to settle abroad, or does it have any extra weightage if we want to work in India too?
So I think there's a lot of myths around people who do LLMs abroad, that they work abroad and they live these extravagant lives and no one comes back to India. No, almost 90%, if not more. Uh, it's not a confirmed statistic, I need to confirm that, but a very large percent of students, because of the immigration laws behind every country for student visas, etc., you have to come back to India after you graduate. Okay, I mean that's normally how it goes. And because there are a lot of labor impact assessments where country, it's very difficult for you to imagine yourself getting a job in the States. It's not impossible, but it's extremely difficult because you need to stand out among the locals and then many other internationals at your level. So I find a lot of students go back to India after they get their LLMs, and they themselves can tell you the amazing benefits they have. I think the highest benefit LLMers who graduates who got the LLM from abroad was that they have a chance of getting a way higher salary, maybe even double the normal local standards. And these are from personal experiences with my friends who work in India. So one, they get higher salaries. Two, they get a higher position. And it's not that this certificate suddenly gives you that. No, it's during these 2 years, you're taught to think like a lawyer. You're 2 years or 1 year. You're taught to think like a lawyer. You're taught to respond like a lawyer. You draft so amazingly. You're not yet copying it from a drafting book that you had in law school, but you're actually using your brain. You learn how to very professionally get across your opinion, your points. And these are things money can't buy. But But yes, you do buy it when you pay for your LLM. Different story if you get a scholarship. But yeah, these are what makes you stand out with that LLM from abroad, especially if you go to universities that focus on these areas. So when you come back, you get really good positions and you get paid double of what your normal an LLMer from India would have got compared to you. So I think money and position
Yes.
for India.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. And what about settling in abroad? Like, what is the procedure? Like, you have to clear the bar exams, and like, how does it goes? And what
Okay.
if you have done your masters and bachelors from India itself, but you still want to settle abroad? In that case, what is the scenario?
Okay, first let me clarify another myth that people think that can happen. That, oh my God, I'm going to go to the United States, I'm going to sit for the New York bar exam, and boom, I'm going to live in America and work there. No, that's not happening. You would pass the bar exam, great, yes, but I told you that it is very difficult for you to be able to get an H-1B visa. So after you graduate from your LLM, you have 1 year which you pay like $500 to get an OPT, where they give you a chance to do optional practical training. So during this 1 year, you can get an internship, but in your field, so it could be law. And if someone really likes your work, they offer you an H1B visa, but that's all theoretically. Practically, it's extremely difficult because there are a lot of us Indians out there and a lot of other foreigners out there. And for us, and I'm focusing on America right now, okay? And for you to be able to get an H1B visa, you need to go through a system of procedures. So first, you should be that good that this employee that you interned with wanted you. And the second, they need to apply for a labor assessment, impact assessment. So that means they would see if you actually stand out compared to the other locals and international thing. And only if you pass that, you get it. So it's a very long procedure. So that is one myth that we need to stop focusing on, that if you pass the bar exam, you're allowed to stay there, work there, live there, because it's a lot deeper than that. But it's not impossible, but it's a lot deeper than that. So going back to your main question, Kushbu, about what do I tell students who are interested in settling abroad? Okay, so many countries, for example, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, not the States, but a lot of other European countries too, have so they have immigration, what's it called? Skilled labor immigration, right? So they have a visa or a permanent residency opportunity for students who have completed their education in that country, right? So if say you complete, say we're looking at Canada, right? And you did your LLM in Canada, you would get, if you did it in India, you'd say you'd have 400 points, but if you did it in Canada, you'd have much more than that. You'd get higher points on your overall score. So they encourage people who have done their education in that country to come forward and to live in that country as permanent residents. So if immigration and settling abroad is what you want to do, this studying is a very great way to get you there. So if you choose you, but you need to, but then again, you need to do a lot of your research. You need to find out what are the immigration policies of that country. You need to find out what else is needed. How long do you have to stay there? Would it improve your score if you work there while you were studying there, etc. So there are opportunities. You just need to look for it. Now, with regard, so that's if you make up your mind as a law student that you want to live abroad and that's why you want to do a master's. I would advise you to look at Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and many other European countries. But these three countries are very pro. They encourage their graduates to get jobs and settle here. Now, if you are already a graduate, say initially you plan to come back to India after your master's, but now you're like, oh, I like it here, or I would like to work and get some international work experience, there are a lot of opportunities, a lot. So all you need to do is always be proactive at your during your LLM. You need to network and more network. So every time you have conferences, every time you have seminars, every time you have career fairs, etc., go there, talk, work, put yourself out there, write papers, work with your professors to publish more papers, put yourself out there. And when you graduate, you would have this amazing family of, the reason I say family is because you get so close to these professionals who are at the top of their game that they would literally do anything to help you get to where you want to go, right?
Right.
So So that's one way of doing it. Keep networking, and if you tell someone, oh, I'd like to maybe work in the UK after I'm done, your networking gets you there, your education gets you there, and they always prefer people, and that's why an international LLM helps, because they always prefer people who have more of a global experience rather than someone with a stagnant Indian like Indian LLM, Indian LLB, LLM, or PhD. It's nice to have up and down, like to show that you've been around the world and you understand how it works, you're adaptable, etc. But if you're in Indian LLM, if you're currently doing your LLM in India, do not feel disheartened, or for some reason you can't do an LLM abroad. Do not feel disheartened that this is going to put you back. This is not going to put you back. I would just advise that if you have the opportunities to intern abroad or intern with foreign corporations, and this does not need to be that you go to that country to work. So one of my positions is a coordinator for the Odysseus network. The Odysseus network works in immigration and is in immigration policy, and helps the European Parliament a lot in developing their laws, etc. And they're really good at what they do. But I don't sit in Brussels or Belgium where they are stationed. I sit here where I am, whichever part of the world I am, and I contribute. But on my resume, it shows that I am a coordinator for the Odysseus Academic Network in Brussels, in Belgium. So don't feel limited. You are never limited. You just need to put yourself out there. You need to apply. You need to know what you want and get that international experience, especially for if you want to stay in India or go abroad. This really, really helps you be more adaptable because you learn a lot from different cultures and from yourself. And it really, really makes you understand what you want more in life. Sorry, I
Right.
rambled.
So, yeah. So, internships are very important. Networking is equally important. Uh, so that is the reason that we emphasize, when you see your law schools, you have a proper internship procedure, and you should definitely take that seriously if you want to see yourself somewhere doing something better than the others, instead of just getting the certificates made out of it. So yes, that's one thing being pointed out. So we have various organizations such as UNESCO. You can act as a volunteer, you can work from India for them, and you can have a global experience with them, and it helps you build your connections and network. Right, ma'am?
Right.
Yes. So you should keep a watch on all the upcoming vacancies, not only particularly if you wish to do your LLM abroad or settle abroad, no, but in general, to have a better exposure, to be a bit more globalized, and to improve yourself. And that's the main reason for these internship programs, which are there in your coursework particularly, and which fets you some marks. So yes, take them seriously and start working on yourself. Make a list for yourself कि कहाँ से क्या कर सकते हैं. जितना दिखेगा उतना बिकेगा. So yes, try to do as many paper presentations, try to go for as many seminars, work on yourself, and make a good version of yourself so that people are ready to have you with them. All right. Okay. So moving ahead, ma'am, students have one question which is there stick in their mind for, I don't know, so long. That is regarding corporate law. That if we
Regarding,
do
sorry, the connection
regarding
went bad.
corporate, yeah, corporate laws,
Okay.
right? Business laws, corporate laws, that we particularly do LLM from abroad so that we can have a good, a professional career in a corporate firm or a legal firm in the corporate fields. No, it is not going to help them in their litigations, probably. That's what they feel. So how true is that?
Okay. So I find the reason most students prefer doing an LLM from abroad in corporate law is because they feel that's the one that they would be able to use more in India. So, because litigation differs from country to country. So corporate law is
Right.
rather international. And with India having so many international, multinational corporations within the country, all these corporations prefer international lawyers or internationally educated lawyers. So there is a very good plus point of students, Indian students especially, wanting to go abroad to do their corporate law LLM. Uh, And what are the benefits behind that is the international perspective. So in India, you, like I said, in India, everything is rote learning, right? It's you, if you have to draft a paper, you're not reinventing the wheel. You have a certain format that you have to follow. Most of the time you just fill in the blanks, or you just have to make a small explanation beneath it, but it's nothing. There is a strict procedure that you follow. Yes, that happens internationally too, but in corporate law, the way things are done are a little bit, there is more freeway because it's not a government imposed restriction. It's each corporate's internal policies that you have to follow, right? And what you learn doing studying corporate law in the states, for example, during your LLM, is you learn how to do different areas of that law, of that in a corporation. So whether you want to work in compliance, whether you want to just work in contracts, whether you want to be part of mergers, their mergers and acquisitions team, or taxation law, you just need to, they focus on their subjects, the subjects that you choose, dive deep into it. There's not just, like I mentioned before, it's uh, an Indian classroom, your teacher comes and lectures at you, right? Whereas in the States, they expect you to know the textbook before you come in, so that they can actually spend that whole semester teaching you how to be a good lawyer in that field. So every subject that you choose, especially for in corporate law, they give you that practical aspect. They bring in speakers from the best companies, the top companies in the world in that field, and they guide you. And that really helps when you come back to India, because in India there's a lot of loopholes in the law. There are a lot of laws that are yet to be developed, yet to reach a contemporary standard, because most of them are pretty outdated. These LLMers now have it in them to develop internal policy, have it in them to draft things from the start, have it in them to provide support to attorneys or corporate legal counsel within the company, because they have that experience and know what to expect. So there is definitely a plus sign.
Yes. Ma'am, please throw the light on the procedure of getting admissions. Like in India, we have, we have an entrance test examination, then counseling, and then finally the list comes into picture. So what is the procedure in abroad?
Hmm. So from my experience, especially in terms of Europe and the States, y'all do not have any sitting down entrance exams, etc. You have the sitting down entrance exams for your JD programs in the States, which is like your LLB, but they call it Juris Doctorate, and that's your LSAT. And that's a very different topic, which we can get into it later. But for this conversation about LLMs, most of the universities follow this procedure more or less. They ask you to send in your transcripts, of course, and if you haven't graduated yet, you can just send in the official transcripts that you have so far. Yeah. And the most important thing that they assess you on is your statement of purpose. Now, this is something that you need at least a month or 2 months to actually sit down and understand yourself, to be able to ask for what you want. So this statement of purpose is what the admission committee reads and decides if you are going to fit well into their school, or if you know what you want, because they never want someone who does something just for the sake of doing it. They want to see passion, they want to see persistence in the field that you want to do. So say, for example, you wanted to get an LLM in corporate law. You need to show it, but through your internships, in your statement of purpose, you can say that I interned at this company or that company. I worked with this finance ministry to help understand the way things are drafted in terms of blah blah blah. So you need to have things related to the statement of purpose gets you out there. So what makes you stand out from the rest is your statement of purpose. So that is the main procedure. You need to first find out what college you want and find out when are your deadlines. When you find out when are your deadlines, make sure you have ample amount of time to sit and write your statement of purpose. This statement of purpose makes or breaks your application. Once you get now that's your first round. So you submit all these paper documents and your statement of purpose and your cover letter. But some universities don't require that because your statement of purpose is like your cover letter. So you submit your statement of purpose. If the university is interested in you, some universities automatically give you admission, but some have a second stage where they prefer having a face-to-face conversation, where they send some of their representatives to India and you meet up with them in a fancy hotel and you have a conversation one-on-one, and it's very informal. So they sit with you and they ask you, so tell me about this. And a very important thing that you all must know is that all admission committees, they check your Facebook page. So if you show on your Facebook page that you've been to France, you've been to Egypt, you've been to Hawaii, you've been to all of that, and you show up at your admission interview, face-to-face interview, and you're like, I need a merit-based call, I need a need-based scholarship. You know, my family can't afford it. And the guy's going to take it and be like, but how is France? So please know that admission committees are not stupid. They know how to do their research. They know how they have a whole committee behind them. They have staff, researchers who actually check because they have very limited scholarships. So don't try to fool them. You'll only be fooling yourself. Okay. So during this admission interview, it's going to be very informal. It's not like what you'd expect, like an Indian interview. So tell me, how much have you studied? What did you get in your first year? What did you get in your second year? You were interned under this great judge or that. They're not going to ask you any of that. They're going to ask you things to find out who you are about yourself. Because, like I mentioned before, all admission committee members want people who have an objective in life, who know what they want, and what you want can change. But at least when you're signing up for that LLM, they need to know you're confident, that you'd stand out, and you'd be a good asset to their university when you graduate. So that's the second part. And then once you finish up with your the written, sending in all your documents to the interview, that's when they call you in, and then you prepare. If you get it, congratulations. If you didn't, don't be disheartened. Ask the person, because normally at the end of the interview they would tell you, you'd get the vibe, right? And you can ask them, and they'd be like, I'm sorry, but I think you can get more experience and come back, or you may not fit our criteria. So ask them, where would you think I could improve myself so that I would be able to get admission into your university, and they'd be able to tell you. They're very open about it. So so dress smart. Don't come in jeans and chappals. Wear your actual formal clothes, because that's another trick that they do. They come in very relaxed clothing, and they talk to you over the phone or via email, very chill and very casual, very different from what the Indian setup is, right? Because you always say, honored sir, la 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 la. They just say, hi Lenora, what's up, that kind of stuff. And so when you go there, you're like, oh, this guy can be my bro. No, he's not your bro. That's a trick. You wear your formal clothes, you call them sir, you wait for them to tell you, please call me Jack. But do not call them Jack, even though they signed their email saying, see you soon, Jack. No, sir. Always sir, until you don't fall for that, that casual thing that a lot of foreigners use. Stick to your Indian roots, stick to the way you've been taught about how to respect, and that goes a long way. So, okay, I stayed away from the point, but the point is, first is your statement of purpose. Make sure you work on that. Ask your professors to help you with that. Sometimes your professors are busy. Ask friends that you know who did their LLM abroad, seniors, etc. They will sit down and show you. Ask someone to just go on Google, research statement of purposes for law school, read what people have written. Make sure your statement of purpose is what makes you get that first selection. So work hard on that. So in terms of your process, get your documents ready. Make sure you have a good resume. Make sure, yes, resume. A lot of resumes that I look at when I am looking at student recruitment, they are not well drafted. Don't use fancy fonts. Don't use um, purple, greens, all of that. Though it is a change for different fields, it is acceptable. Like if you're in marketing or etc., etc. But in the law field, they like someone serious. You should stand out. Make sure you list everything briefly. No one wants to read a 5-page resume. Make sure it's maximum 1.5 page, not more than that. And don't feel that, oh my God, but how do I write every single duty that I ever did at this internship? They're not going to read all of that. Okay. And even if they do, if you write so many, they're not going to reach the main ones. So make sure you're able to communicate properly, briefly, precisely. That's another thing they look at. So your resume, your transcripts that you have to work for 5 years or 3 years to get the good transcripts, your extracurricular activities. But the main things you need to focus on for the first thing is your resume and your statement of purpose, and then your interview when you get selected. So yeah. Sorry,
Yes.
Kush.
You have explained everything, right from purpose to resumes and
I
internships,
I feel
everything. And
so important because we didn't have that while we were going to do it. I wish we had someone who'd actually sit with us and tell us that this is what you expect. So
Right.
Excuse me for rambling on, but this is just me trying to buddy.
Yes, right. Because even after telling students n number of time the importance of resume, they still get into trap of those tables in the resume. I don't know for what reason, because of which they end up losing one complete page without without sharing any information. And they have that illusion कि जितना लंबा resume हम लिखेंगे उतना ही अच्छा होगा. No, that is not the case. You need to give your resume a very simple and a sober look. You do not have to show your creativity in that resume. It is not required. You are from
Especially
a
law.
law background.
Yes, exactly. Uh,
Yes.
and a lot of students have a question, but what is the perfect resume? I'm not
Yeah.
saying this is the perfect resume, but the advice I give students and students interested to apply for jobs or to go for the LM abroad, I would say you start with your first topic should be profile, and your profile is one sentence about you, about the work you've done, the area you want to be in, etc., where you see yourself as however you define your profile. The second should be your education qualifications, which is not more than three. Don't go list your subjects that you learned. Okay, that if they want more, they will ask you, but just mention your degree that you've got or the degree that you're undergoing, and that's it. Next, immediately you go to your professional experience, and in your professional experience, don't feel the need to list every small thing that you've done. Name like three four of the big ones that you've done that you feel proud of, that will make a mark in the field that you want to get into. So if you're applying for, say, business laws, don't be showing things that are not related to business laws. Like, highlight the
Right.
ones you focused on. And after your professional experience, you come to extracurricular activities or interests. I wouldn't call it extracurricular, I'll be like interests. So under your interest, you can say you volunteered at PETA, you volunteered at this orphanage, at this old age home, etc. But that's not under your professional qualifications. That's under your interests, or your not interests. It'd be more under your extracurriculars, and interest would be like basketball, playing the drums, whatever you decide to do, right? And but a very important thing that a lot of people forget to put down is skills. So skills include things like Microsoft Word or Microsoft Office for that matter. But please don't, if you don't know Microsoft Office, don't put it down. Because the first time, a lot of people, when they say Microsoft Office is a skill, when you go in for your meeting, your first day of work, you'll be using an Excel sheet. You'll have to make an Excel sheet. And that's when they realize that what you gave on your Microsoft Office skill is all incorrect. So make sure you learn, don't fake
Right.
it, because you're going to be caught. So just make sure you actually put in that effort. LinkedIn has some tutorials for all of that. So yeah. And just summing up what you need to put for your resume: a one line profile, your education qualifications, your professional qualifications. If you don't have any professional and you have just internships, put them down, but put the related important ones. Then you talk about your extracurricular activities, your skills, and your interests. That's it. And that's
Right.
one page. Okay.
Right. And I want to add something here for the students, for the viewers who are listening to us, that I'm sure you guys must have attended a lot of webinars. So you don't have to put all the webinars in the list of your resumes. You just need to shortlist the important one and place it there, right? So you have to pick and choose and do a smart job. You don't have to list everything which is not required. So make your resume in that particular manner, and that is the reason you need to make different resumes for different positions and
Exactly.
whatever
Don't
you
just
area.
or that one resume, don't send it out to everyone. You
Yes,
need to
yes.
manipulate the organization. Manipulates a very negative connotation, has a very negative connotation to it, but you need to make them see that you chose them. You
Right.
just throw your worm in the sea and expect, to get a lot of things with one. You chose that particular fish. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
Exactly. Exactly. So you cannot be thinking that you can have a universal resume which you can apply everywhere. No, you need to make different resumes for different organizations or the people whom you are forwarding it to, so that it gets selected. And it will get selected only if they will see the qualities which they want to see in that resume. So, yes, please do that homework. Keep your resumes ready for different posts, not only for LLM, but even applying for internships that matters. because a lot of you must have seen that when you share your resumes, you get rejected on the basis of resume itself. So that is something which tells you how important is resume writing for everybody, for each one of you. So please work on that, and also the cover letters, right, ma'am?
And adding to the resume part of it, you don't need to change your resume as in change your positions, etc. No, you need to change the job functions that you
The
did
job
under it.
functions. Yes.
Exactly. So you don't get confused thinking that, oh my God, now I'm applying for this corporate law. I need to make my position look. No, please don't lie about your positions. Change the
Right.
function. Make it in every job that you do, in whether it's internship job, you focus on different areas. So use those areas to to get your resume more attractive for the person reading it. Go ahead. Sorry,
Yes,
Kushbu.
and ma'am, also cover letters. When we talk about resumes, we also have something known as a cover letter.
Yeah.
So please, since you have thrown light on
I
everything, so
realized that we're
this
talking
much.
about everything, but that's great. Okay, so your cover letters is so everyone asked me. So when you need to send in so when you look at a job portal and you see this job that you like, and they're always like, at least this is from my personal experience with the people that I've worked with, they ask you to email the person with their cover letter, your resume, your etc. 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 Right? And a lot of people I find put their cover letter as an attached document to the file. Most people expect cover letters, like most companies, again, this could be different elsewhere, but this is from my personal experience. Your cover letter is your email that you send into them. Sometimes different countries, different organizations have different standards of what your cover letter should be, right? Now, if
Right,
you meet someone personally and then you have your cover letter, sure. But when you're sending an email itself, you don't say, dear sir, madam, please find my cover letter attached and my resume attached, let me know. No, your email should make you stand out. So your email is your cover letter, and
right,
most of the time people forget about that. So make sure so what is your cover letter? It's your motivation letter. What makes you stand out? What have you done? And it's supposed to like titillate the person who's reading it. When they read your cover letter, they'll be like, I must read their resume. This person sounds very interesting. Or I must get onto a call with that person or try to meet that person. So your cover letter is what sells you. So please don't do that copy paste from Google and then just change your name and change the company name, etc. It takes 10 to 20 minutes to read up about the organization you want to join. Don't just copy paste and put in one cover letter for everyone. Read up a little bit about it. You may not get selected still because it's a very competitive environment. But you would be, if you do get selected, it would be because you at least tried. And this is how you assure yourself that you at least tried. You try to put yourself out there by writing good cover letters, and your cover letters must be sincere. Now, it doesn't mean you get personal and write, oh sir, I wanted to work here right from the time I was first year law school, blah blah blah. No. Be professional. Know your worth. You don't have to always be subservient. You can also know your worth. Be professional. Be firm. Don't make people feel like they can walk over you, because you don't want to be in an environment where people walk over you. And you don't want to start as a precedent by saying, like bending down too much. You be formal. You put down your actions. For example, if the corporate law firm, if is working on a mergers and acquisitions between two really good companies, right? And that's a good thing, and that's because of the information that you read. Talk about that in your cover letter. Be like, sir, I've been following this that's been happening, etc., and I feel that I could contribute because of this webinar or this internship that I had. You don't have to go into detail, but just one line to show that you're interested, and you're actually interested in their work, and they're just not one of the fish that you're hoping would bite your fishing rod worm. So yeah, make sure your cover letter is sincere, and you actually put in that 15-20 minutes to read up about the organization before you put. And emails are your cover letters, so they also judge you on that. So if you get
right.
confused, you can also attach a cover letter in your email to the person, but also your email should be very, very nicely written.
Right. And since we are almost done with the time, so at the end, I would just like you to summarize in a form of a difference, if you can. Like, what exactly is the difference between doing pursuing your courses from India and abroad, since you have done both? If you just
So,
have to summarize that once.
so I enjoy the learning system that I had in India. It prepared me for the world. Like I have a lot of colleagues from all over the world that found it very difficult to keep up with in classes in when I was doing my LLM because their education system was very different. And I feel that if you study in India, you are prepared for the world. Honestly, I've studied in Bangalore, I've studied in Delhi, I've studied in Goa, I've studied in a lot of places, and each of every university or school in India really creates a sense of discipline and a sense of competitiveness, which makes you stand out. So if you ask me what's the difference between what are the benefits or what is the difference, what do you prefer, LLM in India, LLM abroad, they all have their value. You just need to make the best of it. You need to ask yourself, where do you see yourself? And if you want to stay in India because your family's there and you're more secure there, just make sure you try to get international experience. And that could be, like I said, internships via online or whatever you can. There are benefits everywhere, and I'm not going to say one is better than the other. India follows more of a rote learning, but at the same time, it's also very disciplined. And I told you that that's what made life so much easier. And foreign universities follow a very Socratic method, so they all have their benefits. You just need to enjoy what you do it, but make sure you choose what you're doing knowingly. You don't just jump into it for the sake of jumping into it. Yeah.
Right. Thank you so much, ma'am. It was a great pleasure listening to you, and I hope the viewers got their queries solved. So at the end, I would just like to summarize by saying that everything, whatever you do, it matters. It makes a difference. Whether it's your internship, whether it's your co-curricular activities, whether it's your education, your marks, everything adds up to something. So you should pay attention to everything. Try to be the best part yourself in whatever manner you can, and grab as much opportunities as you can, not particularly for abroad, but in general I'm talking about, and it will help you in everything you do in your future. So with that note, I wish you all the best for your futures, and bye bye, and I'll see you soon in my next video. See ya.
Thank you so much again, Kushbu and Conceptual Legal. If y'all have any questions and want to put it in the comment section of the YouTube channel, I will go through them and I'd be happy to answer them. Okay. Thank you so much. Have a
Yes.
good time. Bye. Take care.